Yo, what's good, fam? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most fascinating character arcs in hip-hop media, how DJ Akademiks went from being a huge Kendrick Lamar supporter to looking completely shook and compromised during the Drake beef.
Say something right now.
Is Drake scared of Kendrick? Let me get my direct questions out the way.
Yes.
Going to back, going to knees, baby, shake it to the max. The DJ please turn up the bass to the max.
And trust me, this story is wild because we got receipts of Axe saying some crazy things about Drake before he got compromised. Before we get into how Akademiks switched up, we need to go back and show you the receipts of when he was actually giving Kendrick his flowers and keeping it real about Drake's catalog. Because this ain't speculation. Ak was really out here championing Kendrick's artistry for years and even questioning Drake's legacy before everything changed. The early days, Ak as a Kendrick believer. Let's set the scene. We're talking 2015, 2016, 2017, the golden era of Akademiks building his platform. Back then, Ak wasn't just covering hip-hop news, he was giving his real opinions on who was pushing the culture forward. And one name that kept coming up, Kendrick Lamar. When To Pimp a Butterfly dropped in 2015, Akademiks was on his platform talking about how Kendrick was operating on a different level than everybody else. He wasn't just making music for the clubs, he was making art that would be studied in universities. Ak recognized that early. I remember watching his streams back then. Homie would break down Kendrick's wordplay, talk about the jazz influences, discuss the social commentary. He understood that Kendrick wasn't just another rapper, he was a generational talent doing something completely different. When The Heart Part 4 dropped in 2017, right before Damn, Akademiks was one of the media personalities breaking it down line by line. He caught the shots at Big Sean, he understood the complex wordplay about Kendrick's upcoming album having multiple meanings. Ak was locked in on Kendrick's artistry. The Damn era, Ak's peak Kendrick appreciation. Now let's fast forward to the Damn album rollout in April 2017. This is where we really saw Akademiks showing love to Kendrick's craft. When the lead single dropped, Ak was talking about how Kendrick was about to dominate the summer, how the production was crazy, how Kendrick was versatile enough to make radio hits and conscious rap. But here's what's important. Ak wasn't just hyping Kendrick as a fan. He was doing it as someone who understood the business of hip-hop.
I don't think it'll be considered classic. I'm not considering that Drake has any unilateral classics that would be seen by the culture. I'm not considering that Drake has any unilateral classics.
Please just rewind, let me shake it to the max. Shake it.
He would talk about Kendrick's streaming numbers, his cultural impact, his ability to win Grammys and go platinum. Ak recognized Kendrick as a complete package. When Damn dropped and people were debating whether it was better than To Pimp a Butterfly, Akademiks was in those conversations giving nuanced takes. He'd say stuff like Kendrick made a more accessible album without dumbing down his content, or this is how you evolve as an artist without losing your core. And remember when Kendrick won the Pulitzer Prize in 2018 for Damn? Akademiks was one of the first media personalities to cover it, talking about how this was a historic moment for hip-hop, how Kendrick had elevated the entire genre to a level of artistic recognition it had never achieved before. The bomb drop. Ak says Drake has no classic albums. Now here's where it gets spicy, and this is the part that makes Ak's later transformation even more wild. There was a period, and we got the clips to prove it, where Akademiks was on his stream saying that Drake doesn't have a classic album. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. DJ Akademiks, the man who would later become Drake's biggest media cheerleader, publicly stated that Drake didn't have a classic album in his discography. He was having a conversation about hip-hop classics and someone brought up Drake. And Ak said something to the effect of, nah, Drake got hits, Drake got commercial success, but a classic album? Like an album that's going to be remembered as a cultural moment that changed hip-hop? I don't know about that. He would compare Drake to artists like Kendrick, like Nas, like Jay-Z, like Kanye, artists who had albums that were universally recognized as classics that stood the test of time. And Ak's position was that Drake, for all his success, hadn't created that one album that would be studied and revered decades later. This was before Ak got close to OVO. This was when he was still being real, still giving his honest opinions, still separating commercial success from artistic legacy. And he was brave enough to say what a lot of people thought but were scared to say. Drake makes great music, but does he have a classic? The even bigger bomb. Ak says Drake is scared of Kendrick. But wait, it gets even better. There are clips, and again, the internet never forgets, of Akademiks saying that Drake is scared of Kendrick Lamar. This was during discussions about why certain rappers wouldn't go at Kendrick directly, why people would subliminal him but never name him. And Ak said something like,
I think so. We could talk about it more, but the last point, I felt he really said to Drake and Big Sean, and he said with these lines, he says,
control verse.
Gotta lay something down if you making threats, gotta say something now, don't hold your breath. And with him saying that to me, he was saying, listen, if y'all got a problem with all these claims I'm making, say something right now.
Is Drake scared of Kendrick? Let me get my direct questions out the way.
Yes.
Is Big Sean?
Of course he is. That's why it took so long for him to actually respond on record, at least directly. There's been subs thrown for years now at this point. That's what makes it look even sadder for Drake, the fact that he wasn't prepared for something that was basically inevitable. Or maybe it was just the hubris to underestimate somebody like Kendrick Lamar. But either way, it turned out to be a disaster. And this is just something else that really shows that Kendrick Lamar has always had this energy. The dude is probably one of the fiercest competitors in hip-hop. Competition has always been one of the big pillars of hip-hop. I really do believe it brings the best music out of people. And it seems like always have the ability to
Take it to the max. Take it to the max. Take it to the max.
Drake knows Kendrick is a problem. Drake knows Kendrick can really rap. Drake knows that if it came down to pure lyricism, Kendrick would destroy him. Ak basically admitted that Drake had been avoiding a direct confrontation with Kendrick because he knew what would happen. He said Drake is smart to stay away from that smoke because Kendrick is on a different level when it comes to the technical aspects of rapping. Think about how crazy that is. The same man who would later be counting down days for Kendrick to respond to Drake, the same man who would be acting like Drake was invincible, admitted on record that Drake was scared of Kendrick. This wasn't even a controversial take back then. A lot of people in hip-hop media were saying the same thing, that Drake knew better than to engage Kendrick directly because it wouldn't end well for him. But Ak saying it hits different because of what he became later. The Control Verse anniversary. Ak defends Kendrick's legacy. One of the most telling moments of Akademiks supporting Kendrick was during the anniversary discussions of the Control Verse from 2013, where Kendrick called out basically every rapper in the game. Years later, when people would bring up the Control Verse on Akademiks streams and podcasts, he would defend Kendrick's approach. He'd say things like, Kendrick backed up everything he said on that verse, or name one rapper Kendrick called out who actually out-rapped him since then. Ak understood that Kendrick wasn't just talking trash, he was issuing a challenge to elevate the entire genre, and Akademiks respected that competitive spirit. He'd compare Kendrick to Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, someone who wanted to be the best and wasn't afraid to say it. And in these discussions, Ak would sometimes bring up Drake and say things like, that's why Drake didn't respond to Control, because he knew Kendrick was serious. Or, Drake's lane is different. He's not trying to get into a bar-for-bar battle with Kendrick. Ak knew he understood the dynamics. He knew that Kendrick operated on a different level lyrically. He knew Drake's strengths were in making hits, not in battle rap. He knew all of this.
Kendrick's got another thing coming if he thinks he can steal my move and go back-to-back with diss tracks. Maybe you should just take the L, Drake. You heard Kendrick. He's got people inside your camp feeding him information. I bet it's 40.
Take it to the max. Take it to the max.
The subtle shift, when Drake entered the picture. Now here's where things start getting interesting. Around 2018, 2019, we started seeing Akademiks getting closer and closer to Drake and the OVO camp. It wasn't overnight, it was gradual. Drake would send him messages, OVO would give him exclusives, and suddenly, Ak had access to one of the biggest artists in the world. At first, Ak tried to maintain his objectivity. He'd still give Kendrick credit when it was due. When Kendrick dropped verses on features, Ak would cover them. When Kendrick performed at award shows, Ak would react. But you could feel the energy shifting. The thing is, access is a drug in media. When you're getting DMs from Drake, when you're getting information before anyone else, when you're basically becoming part of someone's promotional team, it changes how you operate. you start thinking about maintaining that relationship more than maintaining your journalistic integrity. And more importantly, you start forgetting the real opinions you used to have. Or maybe not forgetting. Maybe you start suppressing them because they don't align with your new relationship. The Black Panther album, the last time Ak showed real Kendrick love. In early 2018, Kendrick curated and produced the Black Panther soundtrack. This was huge, a rapper curating music for a Marvel movie, and Akademiks covered it extensively. He talked about how Kendrick was expanding his influence beyond just rap albums. But even here, you could see the shift starting. Ak would give Kendrick credit, but it wasn't with the same passion he had before. It felt more obligatory, like, yeah, Kendrick did his thing, but anyway, let's talk about Drake's latest IG post. This was probably the last moment where Akademiks gave Kendrick genuine flowers without it being forced, or without immediately pivoting to talk about Drake. 2019 to 2021, the silent years and Ak's complete pivot. From 2019 to 2021, Kendrick was relatively quiet. He was working on what would become Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, but he wasn't dropping much music. And during this time, Akademiks went full OVO mode. This is when we started seeing Ak on stream saying things like, "Where's Kendrick at?" or "Drake been running the game while Kendrick disappeared." The tone completely changed. Instead of respecting Kendrick's artistic process and the fact that he doesn't need to drop every year to maintain relevance, Ak started using Kendrick's silence as a way to prop up Drake. He'd bring up streaming numbers, comparing Drake's constant releases to Kendrick's absence. He'd talk about Drake's features, Drake's albums,
Kendrick, he's got people
Drake's
inside your camp
business
feeding him
moves.
information. I bet it's 40. I can't walk away, Cole. I'm gonna do what I should have did a long time ago. Activating bad guy Drake. What are you doing, man? Bad guy Drake activated.
Take it to the max. Take it to the max. Take it to the max.
This was about access and allegiance. Ak had chosen a side, and that side was OVO. The family ties moment, when Ak became the enemy. In August 2021, Kendrick dropped the Family Ties track with Baby Keem, and he had a verse that shook the entire industry. He said he was the greatest, called himself the top 5, and basically let everyone know he was still that guy. And what did Akademiks do? He mocked it. On the stream, he was laughing, questioning Kendrick's claims, saying Drake was bigger, more successful, more relevant. He asked, "What top 5 you smoking on, Kendrick?" in a sarcastic, dismissive way. This moment was huge because it showed that Ak had completely abandoned any pretense of objectivity when it came to Kendrick. This was the same man who used to praise Kendrick's artistry, who used to recognize his genius, and now he was openly mocking him on behalf of Drake. And then Drake sampled Akademiks' reaction in push-ups during the beef. Drake literally used Ak's voice mocking Kendrick as part of his diss track. That's when everyone realized Ak isn't just biased, he's literally part of Drake's team now. Mr. Morale era, Ak's dismissive coverage. When Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers finally dropped in May 2022, this was Kendrick's first album in 5 years. It was deeply personal, therapeutic, introspective, dealing with trauma, generational curses, therapy, growth. It was art in its purest form. And how did Akademiks cover it? With the most lukewarm, dismissive energy possible. He'd say things like, "It's cool, but it's not commercial enough," or "Drake's numbers are better," or "People aren't vibing with it like his other albums." He completely missed the point of the album. Or maybe he didn't miss it, maybe he just couldn't give Kendrick credit anymore because he was too deep in the OVO camp. Either way, it was a far cry from the Akademiks who used to break down Kendrick's artistry with passion and understanding. The old Ak would have recognized Mr. Morale as a vulnerable, important piece of art.
If you are the greatest, you shouldn't have a ghostwriter, someone paying your bars. No, hold on.
Again, these are actions that Akademiks tries to defend now, when obviously back then for him, this was major points away from Drake. And while technically not ghostwriters, I mean these guys are listed on Drake's credits, it still doesn't change the fact that it does take you out of the conversation when people are bringing you up for best lyricist of all time, when it comes to being the #1 rapper. While it has been a little more kosher, a little more normalized for people to take hooks, because as a guy that's been working in the industry for close to 5 years now, I've been signed for 5 years as a music producer, I can tell you right now that every artist is taking a hook hook here and there, maybe an idea for a bridge, but for a guy to do a paint-by-numbers record, yeah, man, that's where you lose most people. Those type of things won't affect a pop artist, they won't affect your ranking as an artist, but they definitely will affect your ranking as a rapper, when obviously the biggest pillar in being a rapper is your pen.
However, I think Drake has realized that Kendrick kicked his ass.
That is over.
Twice, man. It's just the first time Drake chose to not engage after that. He just took his black eye and walked away. Obviously, was not the case the second time, and he probably wishes he took the same route he did the first go around. And this is just the clips we have, guys. The amount of clips out there that would put to bed most of the narratives that Akademiks has tried to spin this past year alone have been easily debunked by himself. Kendrick Lamar is literally running the charts right now. But the only thing you have to gloat about was numbers. How do you cope with that? Obviously, Drake has shown that not very well. The dude is not coping with it at all.
The new act just saw it as an opportunity to compare streaming numbers to Drake and move on. The Maybach moment, act's complete transformation. In early 2024, right before the Drake-Kendrick beef really popped off, Akademiks bought a Maybach. And when he posted about it, he said something wild. He said this car represented all the rappers whose careers he killed through his coverage and influence. Think about the ego required to say that. Ak went from being a media personality covering hip-hop to thinking he was responsible for making or breaking careers. He saw himself as a player in the game, not just a commentator. This was the final evolution. Akademiks had gone from Kendrick supporter to neutral party to Drake ally to thinking he himself had the power to destroy careers. The transformation was complete. The beef begins. Ak tries to pressure Kendrick. When Drake dropped Push-Ups in April 2024, using Akademiks' own voice to mock Kendrick, Ak went into full attack mode. On the streams, he started counting down the days since Push-Ups dropped, putting pressure on Kendrick to respond. Day 1 since Push-Ups, where's Kendrick? Day 5, still no response from Kendrick. Day 10, is Kendrick scared? Ak was taunting Kendrick, acting like Drake had already won, treating Kendrick's measured approach as weakness. He was so confident, so cocky, so sure that Drake was untouchable. He'd go on the streams and say things like, Drake is going to body Kendrick. Kendrick doesn't want this smoke. OVO is too powerful. He was acting like a cheerleader, a hype man, completely abandoning any journalistic standards. This was the same dude who used to respect Kendrick's artistry, who used to understand that Kendrick moves differently, that he's calculated and intentional. But all of that was gone. Ak had fully committed to being Drake's media soldier. Euphoria drops, the moment everything changed. And then, April 30th, 2024, Euphoria drops, and everything changes. If you go back and watch Akademiks' reaction to Euphoria, and I highly recommend you do because it's been memed to death for good reason, you can see the exact moment reality hits him. His face goes from confident to confused to scared. You can literally watch the realization wash over him in real time. Oh no, Kendrick is really like that. Drake might be in trouble. The track was 6 minutes of Kendrick systematically dismantling Drake's image, his credibility, his relationships, his artistry. And it was so well crafted, so calculated, so devastating that even Ak, who had been riding for Drake this whole time, couldn't deny what he was hearing. In that moment, watching his stream, you could see the fear, the oh shoot, what did we get ourselves into energy. The realization that Kendrick wasn't playing games, and that this beef might not go the way Drake's camp thought it would.
That guy Drake activated. You wanna go to war? I take him to war. Okay. And after I finish Kendrick, I'm gonna take out the rat. Kung Fu Kenny.
And if you hear this and then go and bend your back, go and bend your knees, baby, shake
After
it
the
to
first
the max.
major response, Ak tried to maintain his bravado, but it was gone. The confidence had evaporated. He'd still defend Drake, but you could hear the uncertainty in his voice. He'd say things like, Drake's got something coming, but it sounded more like he was trying to convince himself than his audience. And then, 616 in LA drops on May 3rd, just 3 days later. And Kendrick has a line that breaks the internet. Yeah, somebody's lying. I can see the vibes on Ak, even he looking compromised. Let's peel the layers back. Boom. Kendrick called him out by name, And what's crazy is that Compromised worked on multiple levels. Level 1, financial/professional compromise. Ak had become so close to Drake and OVO that he couldn't be objective anymore. He was compromised as a journalist, as a media personality. His credibility was shot because everyone knew he was Team Drake, regardless of what happened. He went from saying Drake had no classics to acting like Drake was the greatest ever. He went from saying Drake was scared of Kendrick to mocking Kendrick for taking his time to respond. That's the definition of being compromised. Level 2, emotional compromise, the fear. But here's the deeper meaning that we're focused on today. Kendrick saw the fear in Akademiks after the first response dropped. He saw how Ak went from cocky and confident to nervous and uncertain. Ak's whole demeanor was compromised by the realization that Drake might actually lose this battle. That's what I Can See the Vibes on Ak really means. Kendrick was watching Akademiks' reactions, reading his body language, seeing the fear creep in. And he called it out publicly, letting everyone know, yeah, I see you scared now. Your boy might not be as untouchable as you thought. And deep down, you always knew this could happen because you said it yourself years ago. Ak was scared because the thing he predicted years ago was coming true. Drake was scared of Kendrick for good reason. Drake didn't have those classic albums to fall back on. Everything Ak said when he was being honest was being proven right, and he was on the wrong side of it. Level 3, the snitch theory. The third layer is that Ak might be one of the leaks in Drake's camp, either intentionally or because he talks too much on his streams. But that emotional compromise, that fear, combined with the fact that Ak's own previous words were haunting him, that's what really hit different.
Kung Fu Kenny.
Kendrick, Drake is coming for you. He's doing more accents and pretending to be tough again. Just thought you'd want to know.
Good boy, Cold Sword. I'll be ready for Graham Cracker.
Go and bend your back, go and bend your knees, baby, shake it to the max. Will the DJ please turn up the bass to the max? Please just rewind, let me shake it to the max.
Damage control mode. After Kendrick called him out, Akademiks immediately went into damage control. On his next stream, he was trying to explain himself, saying, I'm not compromised, I'm just being honest, I'm just covering the beef as I see it. But bruh, the damage was done. Kendrick had exposed him, and everyone could see it. The memes started flying. People started digging up those old clips of Ak saying Drake had no classics, of Ak saying Drake was scared of Kendrick. The receipts came flooding in. Twitter was on fire with people posting, remember when Ak said Drake was scared of Kendrick? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Ak really said Drake has no classics, and now he's counting days for Kendrick to respond. The character development of DJ Akademiks is crazy. And you could see Ak was stressed. He started the countdown for Drake as a way to deflect from the heat he was getting. He tried to laugh it off, but everyone knew Kendrick had gotten under his skin. And more importantly, Kendrick had exposed that Ak was just as nervous about this beef as Drake probably was. The internet started making compilations. DJ Akademiks, a timeline of contradictions, showing clips of him praising Kendrick next to clips of him mocking Kendrick, showing clips of him saying Drake was scared next to clips of him saying Drake was invincible. It was damning. The complete 180, from truth teller to compromised. So let's trace the complete arc with these new revelations. 2015 to 2018, the truth teller. Ak genuinely appreciates Kendrick's artistry, breaks down his content with passion, recognizes him as a generational talent, admits Drake has no classic albums, says Drake is scared of Kendrick, keeps it real about the industry. 2018 to 2021, the transition, gets closer to Drake and OVO, starts prioritizing access over objectivity. Coverage of Kendrick becomes less passionate, begins using Drake's success to diminish Kendrick, stops mentioning his previous critiques of Drake. 2021 to 2024, the full heel turn, openly mocks Kendrick on the track with Baby Keem, becomes Drake's unofficial media spokesperson, pressures Kendrick during the beef, acts as OVO's hype man. Complete memory holes his previous honest opinions. May 2024, The Exposure. First response reveals Act's confidence was misplaced. Fear becomes visible on his face. His own words from years ago start haunting him. Old clips resurface showing his contradictions. Kendrick calls him out. Kendrick calls him out by name. Act's credibility is destroyed. From truth teller to compromised, what changed? The question is, how did Akademiks go from someone who kept it real about Drake not having classics and being scared of Kendrick to someone who looked terrified when Kendrick proved him right? The access drug. First and foremost, it's about access. When you're getting DMs from one of the biggest artists in the world, when you're getting exclusive information, when you feel like you're part of something rather than just covering it, that changes you. Access is intoxicating, and Ak got addicted to it. But the crazy part is that Ak sold out his own honest opinions for that access. He knew the truth, he spoke the truth, but he buried it for proximity to fame. The business of media. Ak realized that being pro-Drake was good for business. Drake's fan base is massive, and if they see you as someone who supports their favorite artist, they'll tune in, they'll engage, they'll boost your numbers. Ak made a business decision to align himself with Drake because it was profitable, even if it meant contradicting everything he previously stood for, even if it meant going against his own analysis. Money talks, and Ak listened. The echo chamber effect. Once Ak started getting closer to OVO, he surrounded himself with people who all thought the same way, that Drake was untouchable, that nobody could beat him in a beef, that OVO ran the industry. When everyone around you is saying the same thing, you start believing it yourself, or at least, you start pretending to believe it, even when deep down you know the truth you spoke years ago. Loss of artistic appreciation. Somewhere along the way, Ak stopped appreciating hip-hop as an art form and started treating it purely as entertainment and business. The old Ak could recognize that Kendrick was operating on a different artistic level than most rappers. The old Ak knew that classics mattered more than streaming numbers. The new Ak only cared about commercial success, viral moments, and maintaining his OVO relationships. The old Ak who valued artistic merit was dead and buried. The ego inflation. That Maybach moment showed us everything. Ak started thinking he was important enough to make or break careers. His ego got so inflated that he thought his opinions and coverage actually mattered more than the music itself. That's when you've lost the plot completely. The cognitive dissonance. Here's the psychological part. Ak probably still believed deep down that Drake had no classics and was scared of Kendrick, but he had invested so much into the OVO relationship, had gone so far in defending Drake, that he couldn't turn back. So he lived with the cognitive dissonance, pushing down his real thoughts, performing confidence he didn't feel. And when Kendrick's response dropped, all of that suppressed truth came rushing back, and you could see it on his face. The clips that haunt him. Let's talk about the receipts. The internet is forever, and the clips of Akademiks' previous honesty are out there for everyone to see. Let's talk about what makes these clips so damning. The No Classics clip. In this clip, Ak is having a genuine conversation about hip-hop legacy. Someone brings up Drake as having classics, and Ak pushes back. He's not being hateful, he's being analytical. He breaks down what makes an album a classic: cultural impact, artistic innovation, timeless quality, influence on the genre. And his conclusion? Drake has hits, Drake has successful albums, but a true classic that stands alongside the greats, he doesn't see it. The old Ak valued artistic legacy over commercial success, and he wasn't afraid to say it. The Drake is scared clip. This one is even more damning. Ak is talking about why certain beef never materialized, why certain rappers avoid each other, and he straight up says that Drake knows Kendrick is a problem, that Drake is smart enough to stay away from that kind of confrontation. Ak explains that Drake's lane is making hits and being commercially successful, but Kendrick's lane is pure lyricism and artistry. And in a direct battle of bars, Ak says Drake would lose. He's not trying to hate, he's being realistic about each artist's strengths and weaknesses. The fact that this version of Akademiks exists on video makes his later behavior so much more painful to watch. He knew. He always knew. The lesson. What Akademiks' arc teaches us. The story of Akademiks going from keeping it real about Drake having no classics and being scared of Kendrick to looking compromised and terrified teaches us some important lessons about media, integrity, and the music industry. Lesson 1. The truth always comes back. You can bury your honest opinions for access and money, but the internet never forgets. Those old clips of Ak keeping it real came back to haunt him hard. The truth always resurfaces, and when it does, it destroys your credibility.